Good evening to you, and we welcome you into our Bible study for this Thursday, August the 20th, when is the 21st? Anyway, 2013. We welcome you into our Bible study on this Thursday night. This is the first of a series that we'll be teaching about stewardship. And this first installment is focusing on spending our time. One of the things is that we need to learn how to be good stewards of those things which God has given us. And time is one of those things that we must look at and consider. Now, the text that we will be using on tonight is Psalms 90. So if you have it, please turn to it. If you have your Bibles with you. We need to manage our time with eternity in mind. And this is what this psalm is saying. None of us knows how many days, hours, or seconds we have left on earth. All of us want to spend those days, hours, seconds doing something significant. This study will instruct us on the value of numbering our days. By doing so, we realize how few we actually have. Spend time wisely and live them out for God's eternal purposes, because what you do has bearings on eternity. And just as a reminder for those who may not know, eternity is a long time. And that is what we have to understand, that time here is short, but eternity is a long time. Now, this particular psalm is credited by being written by Moses. The circumstance and the situation for the writing of this psalms has something to do with the fact of the wilderness journey of the Israelites. But it also has a lot to do with the fact that Moses was contemplating the end of his life. He was looking toward the end, looking back past his life and looking at those things that he has done in his life and remembering those things. And those things are what prompt him to write this psalm and to leave it for us that we may also ponder the meaning behind it. It is characterized as a prayer, but it's also a meditation. It's a prayer, it's a meditation, it's a combination of a lot of things. But what it really points to is the fact that God is eternal, but we are not. And that God will deal with us in eternity based on how we have lived our lives here in this short period of time that we do live. Now, as a start into our study, the first point and the first thing that I would like for us to understand is to come to grips with the issue, the current issue, the issue that penned this psalm and what we are looking at on today. As Christians, we live our lives to count for God. If that's going to be the case, we have to manage wisely the three primary resources God has entrusted to us: our time, our money, and our talents. But these are the things that God has given us. These are the things that we need to look at and be good stewards of. How are we using our time? How are we using our money? How are we using the gifts and talent that God has given us? Are these being used for the glory of God, or are they simply being used for our selfish motives and ambition? God has entrusted to us our time, our money, and our talents. If you want your life to count, you have to number your days. And this is the focal point of this psalm, is number your days. And that's something that's what we're talking about, is to number your days. Look closely at how you use your time. Let us read Psalm 90. I'll be reading from New King James Version. And it reads as follows. Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations, before the mountains were brought forth. Wherever you have formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You turned man to destruction and said, return, O children of men, For 1,000 years in your sight are like yesterday when it is past, and like a watch in the night. You carry them away like a flood. They are like a sleep. In the morning, they are like grass which grows up. In the morning, it flourishes and grows up. In the evening, it is cut down and withers. For we have been consumed by your anger, and by your wrath we are terrified. You have set our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your countenance. For all our days have passed away in your wrath. We finish our years like a sigh. The days of our lives are 70 years. And if by reason of strength there are 80 years, yet their boast is only labor and sorrow. For it is soon cut off, and we fly away. Who knows the power of your anger? For as the fear of you, so is your wrath. So teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Return, O Lord, how long? And have compassion on your servant. O satisfy us early with your mercy, that we may rejoice and be glad all our days. Make us glad according to the days in which you have afflicted us, the years in which we have seen evil. Let your work appear to your servants, and your glory to their children. And let the beauty of the Lord our God be upon us, and establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. As you can see in this song, it covers quite a bit. Not only does it talks in terms of the eternity of God, but it also talks in terms of his wrath and his anger. As I said earlier, it was written by Moses, probably toward the end of the wilderness journey. As Moses was contemplating his life, nearing the end of his life, he began to look and to think about the things that had occurred up until this point. Israel rebellious in the wilderness because of their rebellion, their sin, and all of the things that happened. So Moses is taking these things into consideration, looking at his life and wondering whether or not he has used the time that God has given him wisely. And that is what we are to do when we look at our lives, when we contemplate where we are. The psalmist ponders the fact that God is eternal, verses 1 through 4. Second, he notes the frailty of man and the brevity of human life, verses 5 through 6. These two realities create a tension in the lives of human beings. We want our frail lives to count for eternity. The only solution is to number our days, verse 12. In the movie Mr. 3000, which starred the late Bernie Mac, it's a comedy about a baseball player who had hit 3,000 home runs. And upon hitting his 3,000th run, he retired from baseball, looking to bask in his celebrity, to make money and profit off of the fact that he had hit these 3,000 home runs, his celebrity status, and so he was just going to live on that. He also thought that doing this would also get him into the Hall of Fame. So basically he had it all made, he had it all set, and he was good to go. However, the statisticians sat down, you know how they like to crunch numbers, they recounted his home runs and determined that in fact he had not hit 3,000, he had 2,997, which means he had 3 home runs he had to hit. Well, what did he do? He signed up for a baseball team again, pursuing his endeavor to hit 3 more home runs so that he can get back that celebrity status that he once had. Mr. 3000, I said, rejoins the league in an effort to collect 3 more hits and regain his happiness and his significance. Along the way, he realized that the things he has used to define himself really aren't important after all. He defined himself on the basis of being able to play baseball and hit 3,000 home runs. But as he pursued these last 3, he began to ponder and to look at his life. What difference does it make, and I want you to think about this, what difference does it make to us that God is eternal? How should that affect the way we look at our lives? Knowing the fact that God is eternal, knowing that we will in fact deal with an eternal God at some point or another. How does that affect our life? How does that make the decisions that we make? How do we look at our time and how we use our time? And this is what this psalm is really trying to get us to look at. Psalm 90 reminds us that we are going to die sooner than we like, sooner than later. Time flies. It just simply goes by. You wake up, you look one morning, and the next thing you know, you're older than you thought you were, and then you begin to look at your life and wonder, have I accomplished the things that I want to accomplish? Does my life have significance? Was I able to do the things that I wanted to do? You know, is my life valid? What are they going to say about me when I leave here? These are the things that we ponder later in our life. When we're young, we don't care. Time doesn't really matter. We do our thing. We have our fun. But sometime along the way, we wake up and we look at the reality that time is short. It is entirely short. We can't make our lives count until we face this reality. Tom McGraw has a song, "Live Like You Were Dying," which describes the changes a man makes when he discovers he will die soon. There was a movie came out, the Bucket List. I like that movie. It was a comedy. It starred Morgan Freeman, Jack Nicholson. Both of them were in the hospital. It was cancer patients. Both of them had been diagnosed with terminal cancer. So Morgan Freeman, who played Gravitas was the name of the guy he played. But anyway, in the course of all of this, they became friends. So Morgan Freeman began to make a list. You know, someone had told him a long time ago to make a list of those things you wanted to accomplish in your life before you died. So he began to pull out his bucket list and to write a list. Jack Nicholson thought that was a good idea. So he began to write down these things. Now, Jack Nicholson was rich, Morgan Freeman was not. But in the end, the idea is that, and this is what the whole central point that's being made by the song and also being made by that movie, is the fact is that when you look at your life, when you're nearing the end of your life, you begin to reflect upon the fact, have I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish? Does my life have meaning and value? If you live your life with the perspective that you're going to die sooner than later, it changes how you live your life. But it also changes how you use your time. You begin to recognize the fact that time is valuable. You can't get back. 5 minutes ago I lost. I'll never regain those 5 minutes. But it's what you do with the time that you do have. Doesn't matter how old you are, no matter what's going on in your life. From this point on, when you reflect upon what this psalm is trying to get us to understand, you begin to take a different perspective on life and recognize the fact that time is valuable. Oftentimes we allow other people and other things and situations to rob us of time. Hello, somebody. All right, we'll get to that one in a minute. But anyway, that was the whole deal with the bucket list. Now, somewhere in the course of our lives, and this is the whole point that I'm trying to get us to, trying to lead us to, trying to get us to recognize the fact is that you need to really consider your time. God made us stewards of our life. He made us stewards of our time. And how we use our time. Are we using our time to serve Him? Are we using our time to serve others? Are we using our time in the best way possible? There was a Hilton Generational Time Survey that was done in 2001. And it was about Americans working too hard, and it was the USA Today snapshot. In this survey, this is the results of what that survey was. And it's the percentage of Americans who say they need more fun, 68%, need a long vacation, 67%, often feel stressed, 66%, feel time is crunched, 60%, want less work, more play, 51%, feel pressure to succeed, 49%, and feel overwhelmed, 48%. If you were to number your days, what would it reveal about how you spend them if you just took one day and simply looked down and wrote down all of the things you did in a 24-hour period? You will probably be amazed at what you discover about how you use your time on a day-to-day basis. Time can be spent like money, which leads more people into one of two mistakes. The first is this: some think they have too much time and waste it on unimportant things, preventing them from spending it on things that matter. Second is this: others think they have too little time and don't even try to do anything significant. Well, what difference does it make? I'm old, nothing's gonna happen, so what's the bother? So why should I even try? Why should I even deal with it? I was talking with my golf buddy out on the course, and we was nearing the end of the game. And so we began to talking about playing golf, and I said, it really would be nice to go to one of these, golf resorts and play on one of these exclusive golf courses just one time, They began to say, well, that's probably not going to happen. And I said, something? You only live once. You only come by this way one time. Why not go for it? Why not shoot for it? Have it as a goal, have it as an objective that you would like to go. Take a vacation, go to a golf resort, and enjoy the pleasure of being on one of those beautiful golf courses. And this is what we need to look at our lives, look at our time and what we want to do. But if you decide that because it's too late, because you don't have the money, because you can't do this, you can't do that, then what happens is that you begin to frivolously use your time and not use it wisely. Only by numbering our days, hours, minutes, and seconds can we spend time wisely. Okay, let's go back and look at, let's look at verses 1 through 4 again. Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you have formed the earth and the world. Even from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You turned man to destruction and said, return, O children of men, for 1,000 years in your sight are like yesterday when it is past, and like a watch in the night. Let's drop down to verse 12. So teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Return, O Lord, how long? And have compassion on your servants. O satisfy us early with your mercy, that we may rejoice and be glad all our days. Make us glad according to the days in which you have afflicted us, the years in which we have seen evil. Let your work appear in your servants, and your glory to their children. And let the beauty of the Lord our God be upon us, and establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. When we come into a relationship with Christ, when we accept Christ as our Lord and Savior, we begin a new journey. The journey then is that our whole life is to reflect and to magnify the glory of God. God is glorified when we conduct ourselves in a good manner, when we pursue those things that are good. No matter what age you are, no matter what time you think you may have left, God is the one who controls our time, and he wants us to use that time to glorify him. When we number our days, we are able to offer them to God. They're not our time. Somehow or another we think we own ourselves, but the Bible clearly says we are a new creature in Christ Jesus. We no longer belong to ourselves, but we belong to him. All that we have, all that we do is from him. Our time, our life, our talents, our abilities, our skill, the spiritual gifts that he has endowed us with, all come from God. And in that relation with Christ, we are to be surrendered, submitted to his will. and to leading and direction of the Holy Spirit, so that our lives have meaning and significance for God. With God's blessing, our days begin to add up to eternal significance. Let me drop this on. This is free. It ain't gonna cost you nothing. This is just, I'm just giving it to you, and, you know. But I want you to think about this one thing. Somehow or another, we get the impression, and I don't know where it came from, I don't know who sold you that bill of goods, about the simple fact that when we get to heaven, that all we're going to do is walk around day in and day out saying howdy, howdy, and everything we mark. Wrong. The very gifts and the very talents, the very spiritual gifts that God has endowed you with when you come to a relationship with Him will be used for all eternity. It doesn't cease. So that when you are learning to do it here, you're also being able to put it in service there. Somewhere along the line, if you're singing in the choir, if God has gifted you with a voice of song, you may be singing with the heavenly hosts. Somewhere along the line, the very gifts and talents that God has given you will be used in all eternity. Eternity is a long time, folks, to be sitting by the river with your feet swinging. That's a long time to be sitting there. Author and pastor John Piper talks about a plaque that used to hang over the sink in the kitchen where he grew up. He figures that every day in those formative years, he read the simple verse that was printed there. It reads as follows: "Only one life, 'tis soon be past. Only what's done for Christ will last." To the left beside these words was painted a green hill with 2 trees and a brown path that disappeared over the hill. How many times, said Piper, as a little boy, and then as a teenager with pimples and longings and anxiety, I looked at that brown path, my life, and wondered what would be over that hill. The message was clear. You get one pass at life. Only one. And the lasting measure of their life is Jesus Christ. I am 57 as I write these words, and that very plaque hangs today on the wall by our front door. I see it every time I leave home. John Piper, from his sermon, Boasting Only in the Cross. What you do for Christ will last. There was a movie called Gladiator, and in the movie, Russell Crowe, I think it's Crowe, but anyway, he makes a statement in there which is an awesome statement. He was talking to the general. He was talking to his troops. He was getting ready to go into battle, and he looked at him and he says, "What you do in this life reigns in eternity." Those are profound words. That what you do here has an effect for all eternity. You may witness and share the gospel with someone. They may, in fact, not accept Christ at that point. But wouldn't it be marvelous to be walking along the gates, walking along the pearly streets, and somebody walks up to you and say, "Hello, how are you doing? I'm here today because you shared the gospel with my great aunt. She in turn shared it with someone else. They in turn shared it, and in turn I received the message. It was because of your labor, because of what you've done." That's eternity. That everything we do has eternal consequences. Somehow or another we get the impression that our lives is just what it is around us. And so we waste our time, we waste our energy, we waste our talents and our ability because we get so preoccupied with this world. This is not your home. You're only passing through here. But we get locked in and locked down with stuff and possessions and all of this. And so we're so tied down that God can't use us because we won't move, we won't go anywhere, we won't do anything. And so we go to church, we do our little routine, we check it off, and we go home. And we have people all around us who are dying because they have not heard the gospel. Are you using your time wisely? How often do you spend TV and watch programs? How much time do you spend in prayer and reading of the Bible? Well, how much time do you spend quality time with your family? In fact, if you're the head of the house, how often do you gather them around for prayer and for Bible study? Those are the things that the psalmist is talking about when we look at our lives, and the things that we do are to glorify God and have eternal consequences. Our culture elevates things that won't last: money, power, fame, comfort, etc. By numbering our days, we realize how few we actually have. We spend them wisely, and we live them out for God's eternal purpose. Let's look at verse 17. And let the beauty of the Lord our God be upon us, and establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. God created us. He saved us, brought us into a relationship with Him, that He might be glorified through the things that we do. Everywhere you go, everything that you do, you take along with you the Holy Spirit. Have you thought about that? Have you thought about the fact that God sees everything you do? Are you glorifying Him in how you use your time? How can we ask God to establish the work of our hands? What does that really mean? What does it mean? When we understand our spiritual gifts that God has given unto us, when we understand they are the tools that we are to use in glorifying Him and for eternity, then we begin to allow God and the Holy Spirit to guide and direct us to do those things which are important. When I was working with youth in Philly, one of the things that used to always, I would talk with the parents, and they would always come up with ideas about what they think their child ought to be doing and pursuing. And they wanted a doctor in the family, wanted a lawyer in the family. And so they had all these ideas about what they want their child to be. But no one had ever took the time to realize the fact that if you teach that child, and that is one of the reasons why children leave the church and go off on their own, simply because they've never really been learned to have a relationship with Christ. Because if they have a relationship with God, and they seek God's guidance and direction about the course of their life, God will lay it out for them. So it's not about you living through the glory of your children. Perhaps maybe you had ambitions to be a doctor and it didn't happen. So now you're going to live through your child and push them in the direction. I know kids who ain't happy about it, can't stand school, ain't interested, but we want to push them in a direction that we want them to go. But had you really thought about the fact that if you teach them, show them what a relationship with God is really like, and how God will direct them, that God knows them, God created them, that if they trust God, He will lay out a life for them, which has eternal consequences, and that will bring glory to Him. But we teach them to be just as selfish as we are, and to pursue our own selfish individual gains. And this is what happens. So they weren't happy with that. They didn't like me too much, but that's all right. I moved on, and life goes on. But that's the reality about it. It's really about understanding the fact that our lives are not ours, and that they do not belong to us. You have to be a wise steward of your time to live a life that counts. No matter what age you may be, no matter what circumstances you may be in, no matter how you may see your life. You may see it as a point of a dead-end job. You may see it at a point that you're too old to do anything. You may see it that you're too young to make any kind of... But if you understand the fact that your life comes from God, and that your life has eternal consequences. Time is short, and it's how you use that time wisely which is what important.